Part 4. After the talks were concluded, Ains gathered the Guardians, Albedo, Demiurge, Aura, Merit, Cocytus, Sheltier, in his room, along with Sebas. He signaled to his kneeling subordinates to rise. He placed both elbows on his table and meshed his hands, covering the lower half of his face. His non-existent belly ached. Now, they would probably start denouncing him. As he held that feeling in his heart, he peeked at Demiurge and Albedo. They did not seem angry, nor did they seem speechless. However, who could tell if that was or was not a poker face? After thinking of that, he looked closely at them again, to see if their faces were frozen in anger. I want to get out of here. In the first place, why did I sit here? No, it's too late. No use crying over spilt milk. Grow a damn spine, Ainzu gown. The phantom pain in his gut seemed to have subsided a little, but he still felt like throwing up. When he learned the Emperor was approaching Nazarick as planned, Ains indirectly asked Demiurge, "What shall we do next?" But instead the answer he got was, "Since all is going as predicted, we shall stick to the plan. But I don't know what the plan is." Of course, he did not actually say that. As the absolute ruler of the great underground tomb of Nazarick, Ains had to adopt an attitude that matched the expectations of the NPCs, the children. Therefore, all he could do was pretend to look determined, smile in a kingly way, and reply, "Is that so?" When it came to following Demiurge's plan, however, Ains was desperately flailing in the dark. The actual talks with Jerkneve Rune Farlord El Nix had been played entirely off the cuff, trusting that there would be a way through no matter what. As for how confident he was of having said the right thing during the negotiations, well, simply put, he was not. Like a student waiting for his test scores, he peeked at the two of them. This is like a job interview. He had sat for several interviews as he made his foray into the working world, and he felt the same then as he did now. Now then, the Emperor has made his move just as predicted. Ains took a deep breath. Just as he was about to speak, a voice interrupted from beside him. "Ains-sama, I fear to offend, but I have a question. Why did you have to give the human Emperor a position as a collaborator? Couldn't we have just conquered the Empire by force?" Ains, non-existent, lurched in response to Sheltier's question. The first step of their overall goal of world domination was to apply pressure to the Empire. They would allow the Empire's high command to launch an attack on Nazarick, and use that to threaten the Empire and force the Emperor into a direct meeting. Then, they would impress the overwhelming military might of Nazarick upon them. That was how this operation should have gone. Ains knew nothing else. The exact importance of why they had to impress Nazarick's power onto the Emperor and other such fine details were a mystery to him. Because of that, he had no idea how to properly answer Sheltier's question. Aura continued after her. "Sheltier's got a point. We went to their capital and it's nothing much." Ains glanced at the other Guardians. They all seemed to have the same doubts. While they had no intention of going against the decision made by their master Ains, while they thought that whichever way he chose was correct, the doubts would still keep welling up. In addition, they wanted to know why Ains made the decisions that he did, to understand his true intentions, so they could be more useful to him. If they did not know his motives, then they might accidentally work against his aims would be higher. Two of the Guardians in particular felt uneasy about this lack of knowledge. Namely Sheltier and Sebes, who had already committed mistakes in the past. Both of them watched Ains with serious looks on their faces, paying close attention to his words so they would not miss out on his intentions. Ains quashed the pressure he felt from being the focus of everyone's attention, and searched for a way out of this predicament. "First, I need to decide whether or not to affirm or deny Sheltier and Aura's words. If I affirm them, that means conquering the Empire is part of the plan. If I deny them, it means we won't be conquering the Empire for now. Which choice should I pick to sync up with Albedo and Demiurge? Oh no, not good. I took too long. Ains laughed, in a tone he hoped was confident and fearless. After that, he exhaled deeply. The odds were 1 in 2. If he screwed up here, all he would have to do was correct his course somehow. And besides, Shiltir is always messing up, so I should reject her in this. I feel that would be a foolish course of action, Shiltir. The light in the Guardian's eyes brightened as they heard Ains's words. That was probably not a trick of the light. They wanted to listen to the words of their great master, the better to harvest the pearls of wisdom which fell from that brilliant mind of his. I'm not what you think I am. Ains looked over to Demiurge. He did his best not to look like he was crying out for help, and spoke slowly and carefully. Demiurge, a smart man like him should understand even if I just speak his name. That was Ains' hope. Yes. Please forgive these incompetents' inability to fully comprehend your plans. No, incompetent is a bit too much. Once more, I offer my apologies. I beg for your forgiveness. It's not like that. Why didn't you say something else? This is bad. If I call on Demiurge again, why didn't he just give a straight answer? Albedo. I am moved to tears by the boundless compassion of Ains-sama. I expected nothing less of our ruler and our king. He wanted answers more than he wanted praise. However, there was nobody else he could turn to. After gathering his resolve, Ains began explaining his conclusion. We require just cause. Is such thing truly necessary? Of course. Indeed, we could conquer the empire with force alone. However, if we did that, we would raise too many enemies against us. It is different from dealing with primitive opponents like the lizard men. If I had to explain this to someone, I would phrase it like this: while we were living peacefully in our secluded home, we were attacked and robbed by workers from the empire. In anger, we killed them and demanded an apology from their employer, the empire, and they in turn said they would help us build a nation in order to make amends. That was the general idea. Thus, making the emperor a collaborator is part of the plan. Oh, I see, but Ains-sama, will they accept an explanation like that? Whether they accept or not is unimportant, it is the truth. That was what he meant by just cause. And Ains had not told a single lie to them. Could that mean it was all for this? To get the emperor here. What do you mean, Mayor? Why, yes. Talks with the emperor might leave traces behind, and because of that, you specially brought him here to minimize the amount of leaks when you spoke. I think that's it. Indeed, it was. Well done, Mayor. Mayor blushed shyly, and smiled. As he looked at Mayor's adorable smile, Ains sighed in relief. It was true that negotiating in the empire might leave a lot of evidence behind. However, by bringing a limited amount of empire personnel here, they could minimize the number of leaks and ensure it would not go on the record. This would be very useful when conducting investigations. Ains was impressed by the foresight of Demiurge, who had arranged for events to take place here in the first place, and looked to the other guardians. In addition, building a nation implies that we will be defending more people. Turning countries into graveyards will only damage the name of Ainzuelgaon. Now, has anyone noticed anything? The intention behind those words was to ask if anyone else had noticed anything special, like Mare did. The eyes of all the guardians were now focused on Demiurge. They must have felt that Demiurge, whom they believed was the brightest mind in Nazarick, would surely have picked up on something. Ains strongly hoped that would be the case. Demiurge's laugh echoed through the room. Did you really think that was the extent of Ains-sama's plan? You, what do you mean? What did you say? Everyone, you need to think harder. Ains-sama is our master, who assembled all the supreme beings. Do you think that was the extent of his planning? Ains swallowed, as though he had been punched in the face. Meanwhile, the guardians were nodding and murmuring. Indeed. The hell, why are you making things difficult for me? Fortunately, nobody could hear Ains' internal screaming. Precisely. Aren't you being too hasty by thinking that you knew the depths of Ains-sama's intentions just because he supplied you with that easily understood answer? That's why Ains-sama didn't tell you the deeper meaning behind his plans. A vague hint of regret colored the faces of all the guardians other than Albedo and Demiurge. They were probably worried that their foolish brains were incapable of being useful to Ains. All this made Ains even more grateful for his current body. It was easier to maintain a poker face this way. Really, Ains-sama, should you not inform us of your true objective now? After all, it will inform our future direction. Everyone's attention went to Ains. Their earnest, pleading expression seemed to say, "Please enlighten this foolish one." After looking over everyone, Ains took a deep breath. No, he took several deep breaths. Then, he slowly rose from his chair, and turned his back to the guardians. From this position, he offered praise to Demiurge over his shoulder. As expected of Demiurge, and the overseer of the guardians, Albedo. To think you had discerned my true aims. No, your schemes are elaborate and far-sighted, Ainz-sama. I cannot hope to compare. And I believe what I understand is only a portion of your plans. Demiurge bowed respectfully in response to Ain's praise. I have heard that some of the maids speak of you as a wise king. I believe that name is best suited for Ains-sama. To think, assuming the role of Mon the Adventurer was part of your master plan. Now he has become an effective alternative to leveling a country. Ains nodded in smug self-satisfaction, but his heart was a vortex of doubt. What's he saying? Mon? What is the name of that adventurer from Irantel doing here? What does this all mean? Shiltir's question carried the hint of jealousy, probably because she could not tread the same ground which those two shared with their beloved master. Aura puffed up her cheeks in displeasure as she saw Demiurge's faint smile and the beaming smile of a victor on Albedo's face. Ains-sama, tell us too. We want to be useful as well. Then, please tell me too. Please. To begin with, we should not need to have it spelled out for us. Please forgive this foolish one. I pray you will enlighten us in this matter, Ains-sama. Everyone sounded quite desperate. Ains kept his back faced to them, and covered his eyes with a hand. The stress made him feel like he was going to faint. There is no greater joy in life for us than to serve you. The guardians behind him were saying something similar, all at the same time. Ains' heart ached with guilt as he heard the sincere pleas from the guardians behind him, and as he realized that he could not answer them. His strong emotions should have been suppressed, but yet this pain he felt continued unabated. Should he come clean and admit his own incompetence? However, there were many reasons which would not allow him to say that. He cast aside his doubts and turned around, forcefully thrusting the staff of Ainzuel gown toward Demiurge as he did. Demiurge, I permit you to explain what you understand to the others. Understood. After Demiurge nodded, he began speaking to his comrades.